Federico, we're back with another episode of Mac Stories Unwind. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you, John?
I am hanging in there. I'm doing really well. I'm gonna, I've got a pick today, and I've got couple of stories for you.
Okay, I wanna hear the stories.
The first one is just a random question. If you've ever had anything like this happen to you, I've noticed in the last, I was traveling last weekend. I was away from home. Jennifer was here. She had a couple of her sisters with her for the weekend. I came back, and ever since I came back, my TV has been turning on at like 6:30, 6:45 in the morning on its own.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure. I'm thinking I should blame Jennifer and her sisters for doing something here, but I feel like there might be an automation at the
Yeah,
heart of
no,
this
it's
somewhere.
it's it's something you've done for sure. Like either some automation that you have, or so this happened to me one time.
Yeah,
It was a random HDMI connection that was waking up the TV. Um,
really.
yeah, it was something to do with Home Assistant, I think,
Hmm.
because I set up my Apple TV as like a source in Home Assistant, and some bug was going on where the Apple TV was getting the command from Home Assistant to wake up, and that was also waking up the TV because of HDMI CEC, and
Oh,
so
you know
that
what? Now
yeah,
that you say
what
this, well, let me tell you this. All right, so here I'll extend the story, which is like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I updated the software on my LG TV,
yeah.
and the CEC stopped working. I couldn't get the audio to come through my original HomePods anymore. And I thought, and it was only a day or two after I did the update that I noticed. I thought, oh well, this is probably an LG thing. They probably messed up their software. They'll fix it. So I waited and listened to my TV like an animal through the LG speakers, the
Hmm.
TV speakers, which was not great. But I did that for a couple of weeks. But then they issued another update, and I updated again. And lo and behold, the HomePods were working again. I wonder if LG did something that screwed up, is waking up my TV
It
at a
seems it seems possible because that LG like WebOS update
yeah.
also screwed up my HDMI input for my gaming PC, and
Oh,
so I
interesting.
had to do the whole dance of like resetting my all my inputs and
Oh,
having to set up Game Optimizer again for my
really?
gaming. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna have to look at that this weekend because, and I don't know why, but it seems to be roughly the same time of day. I have yet to be in the room when it actually turns on, so I'm not sure exactly when it's happening, but it's happening very early in the morning. And sometimes I'm already downstairs working, and Jennifer will get up and she'll ask me why the TV's on, and it's doing it by itself. So that's story number one. I will investigate and get back to people
Okay.
with the results of this very compelling story in the future. But I wanted to talk to you about fire ants, Federico.
Oh no! Why do you always bring these insects and bugs to the show?
I don't
Why
know.
do you keep doing it?
I
Is
don't know. I was not very familiar with fire ants before this, Federico. It's these. I think their origins are in Brazil, and they have spread through different parts of the United States, specifically a lot of the southeast United States and a large portion of North Carolina. And there was a day, maybe a month or two ago, when I ate at my desk for lunch, which I shouldn't do. I should, take a break and go upstairs. But you know how it is. Sometimes you're busy. So I brought something down here, and a crumb managed to land on the floor that I didn't see, and it was kind of under the leg of my desk, so I didn't see it right away. But then the next day I look and there's like lots of ants in the house. And I was like, oh,
mm,
this is terrible. And so I figured I found the crumb. I got rid of the ants. I killed the ants with some poison on the inside and a little bit outside. And I thought that was done. I thought, this is good.
right.
And then I noticed the anthill that was right at the base of one of the windows outside my office that was seemed to be growing larger. And I thought I
Oh
had
my
killed the
god.
ant. Right. I thought I had killed the ants with this poison. I didn't really see any ants crawling around. I thought, oh, this thing, I don't think I got them. So the other morning, a couple of days ago, we I mean, for context, we don't have any tools anymore. We moved to a condominium. We don't have really a yard. There are people who usually
Right.
do the yard. And I had contacted them and said, you got to deal with this anthill, but they never did. So I took matters into my own hands. I got a dustpan for a broom, and I chopped off the top of the anthill with a dustpan as if it were a shovel.
Okay.
And suddenly there were tens of thousands of ants everywhere, little
Oh my
tiny
god.
ants.
Oh my
There were
god.
just tons of ants. And that's all right. I'd already looked up on Google. I looked up on Google how to get rid of ants. And there were a lot of suggestions using various chemicals. But one of them, right at the top of the list, was easy and something I thought I can handle this morning. I'm going to take a little break. And it was pouring boiling water inside the anthill.
Right. So you just wanted to boil the ants.
I
Okay.
was going to boil the ants. And I'm sorry if anybody out there is concerned about my treatment of ants, but these ants were getting in our house and were ripping up the front part of our yard, our little tiny yard. And I needed to get rid of them so that they didn't do any damage inside the house. So I went upstairs. We have an electric tea kettle that heats up really quickly. And I poured a tea kettle full of boiling hot water onto the anthill. And that I can tell you, it started doing its job. But this is a pretty big anthill. So I continued my process until there were no longer any ants. It took 7 tea kettles of water. In the process of doing this, I got ants on my shoes, brought them into the house, had to then kill
Oh
them in the
my
house in the
god.
entryway. I got bitten by a couple of fire ants, which I will tell you, these tiny little ants, they do hurt. It is not a good thing to get bitten by a fire ant. And so I ended up having this process where I would kind of like hang myself around the corner of the house where the ant hill was. So I was standing as far away from the ant hill as I could possibly be, but still pour the hot water on. And eventually I got them all. And I think I'm going to give them one more dousing either today or tomorrow. I think the only downside of using the boiling water that I can see is that it did say that there's a bush not too far away from this anthill. I may have killed the roots of the bush. I don't know. I hope not, because it's a nice bush. But I got rid of the ants, I think. And then I knew that things were good because the birds and the squirrels came later in the day and were having a feast of
Nice.
boiled
We're
ants
partying,
outside my
you know.
window. I,
Cooked ants. It's just like a little BBQ for birds.
it was. They had the ants. It's been a nature week for me, Federico. I had the ants, and then I was out for a walk the other night, and I saw a raccoon, and I sent you a picture of it because
Nice. Nice.
I had thought that there weren't raccoons in Italy, but I think you and I actually talked about that one time, that there are at least some species of raccoons in Italy somewhere.
I've never seen one in real life, but I think
You've just seen wild boars in the streets of Rome.
yeah. There was actually a newspaper article in this whole family of boars, including like the piglets. No, what are they
Uh-huh.
called? Like boar, like the little boars.
I
They were
guess
just
so. Piglets, yeah.
yeah, they were just walking undisturbed in the middle of Viterbo. Like it just the whole family, like it was like the 2 adults and like 5 or 6 piglets, just sort of just casually walking around, and
In the
people
old part
taking
of the city, like in the
no
middle.
near the old part of the
Okay.
town, but like near to my mom's place also,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, my
Oh,
mom a few weeks ago, she went downstairs to take out the trash, and
yeah.
she was confronted by a boar. And
Really?
yeah, she was like, "Nope, I'm running back into the front door
Oh,
of the
yeah. I
building."
would too.
Yeah. Those things are huge. Like a male boar in real life, like an adult male
Oh,
boar,
they could hurt.
because
They could hurt somebody.
they
Yeah.
can nurture, but also they're big. Like
Yeah, they
they
really are.
are, they are like an absolute unit of an animal.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay attention, like if you like accidentally, like I've heard from people who had car accidents, like you can absolutely total your
Oh,
car.
I bet. Yeah. That
Those
in
are,
when I was growing up, that was the deer that would do that. Like you
yeah.
could literally destroy your car with a deer.
Yeah, and they are also quite dangerous, especially because they cause accidents. And we have this Viterbo and Rome. They are not so greatly connected in terms of infrastructure. The train takes
Right.
forever, and so it's preferable to drive. It's a 1 hour drive, and you have essentially 2 roads that connect Viterbo to Rome. And
Hmm.
the one that I don't usually take is it's like a mountain road that sort of it goes by this lake, this old volcanic lake that
Hmm.
it's near Viterbo. And so you take this quite scenic road. I gotta say, it's beautiful because you're walking, you're basically driving through this protected wildlife area,
Hmm.
and it's very common there to to see boars just in the middle of the street. But also
Right.
because that road is so narrow and so scarcely illuminated, there have been many cases of car accidents, unfortunately, because of boars.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do have that problem, and the local administration in Viterbo has been taking steps to they finally ask themselves the question, hey, is there a better way to, without having to kill the boars, if maybe we can capture them and sort of reinsert them in a wildlife area instead of having because a couple of years ago, those geniuses of the Italian government
Hmm.
had the idea of hey, why don't we just allow people with guns to shoot the boars,
Oh,
even in urban areas? And that was a terrible idea. And so now they have come
especially in
to
urban areas. That seems like a
exactly,
terrible idea.
don't do it. Don't give a hunting permit, in an urban area.
In the
um,
streets of Viterbo, that's terrible.
but thankfully they seem to have come to their senses, and now they have supposedly taken measures to, when you see a boar and if it's causing trouble,
Right.
you can call a number, and there's a team of veterinarians or something that can sort of capture the boars and take
Mm.
them to the woods nearby,
Yeah,
essentially.
way out in
Ins-
the
yeah,
countryside.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well,
that
that's
was
our
some boar follow-up for you.
today in nature with Federico and
Yeah.
John.
But so that being said, I do have a pick that I want
You
to share
do.
with you.
Good. I want to hear all about it.
So I've been playing a GameCube game,
Oh,
John. And
all
now the
right.
details of how I'm playing this GameCube game will be revealed in the future.
Well, I have
You
an
should
idea, I
just
think.
know that I've been playing a GameCube game. And I've been playing the original version of Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. Now, you may be wondering, but Tichi, why don't you just wait a couple of weeks and play the Switch remaster? Because that game is being remastered in HD for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
And once again, the details will be more clear in the near future. I figured,
Hmm.
this game is coming out, but I just want to play the original.
Yeah.
I have an original copy of Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. And so I've started playing that. And I got to tell you, I missed out on that game when I was younger. And it's such a lovely game.
It really is.
Yeah. So Paper Mario, in case you're not familiar, Mario is literally like a piece of paper. It's a sheet of paper, and you're walking in this 3D environment that's sort of it's all Nintendo's really playing around this concept of the entire world is like an origami type world where
Hmm.
buildings, they fold on themselves. There's many UI elements that gain a different level of perspective when there's puzzles to solve that play around with that concept of the z-axis and the depth of these 2D elements presented in a 3D environment.
Yeah, Mario can become a paper airplane to span
Yes.
distances and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mario can also turn. It's sort of similar to Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, where you're alternating between this 3D environment but also 2D aspects. I think it's really well done. It's an RPG. It's a turn-based RPG where you're controlling Mario and one of Mario's companions. It starts with your companion is this Goomba. She's called Goombella, and then another teammate joins your party called Koops. Koops is a Koopa, and you're basically investigating this long lost treasure that's supposedly buried underneath this town. And Mario goes to this town because he receives a letter from Princess Peach, and Princess Peach says, "Mario, I know the details of this treasure. I want to go find this treasure. You should also come with." And so Mario travels to this town, and then the story starts, no pun intended, unfolding there. And it's such a lovely game. It looks fantastic. Obviously, the Switch remaster is going to look even better. And it seems like it's going to be a very faithful remaster of the original with just amped up graphics, basically, and some quality of life enhancements. The game is totally playable. by today's standards. It's almost like an evergreen game. You can
Hmm.
you It's hard to tell that it's a 20-year-old video game.
It really is.
It plays so well, it looks fantastic, sounds fantastic. And I gotta say that the writing, this is one of the things that I was not expecting. The writing is on par, if not maybe even superior, to my so far all-time favorite Mario RPG, which is the original Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga for the
Hmm.
Game Boy Advance. The story and the writing in this game are excellent. The characterization of the different characters that you encounter, and even like the details. Like for example, there's a Koopa house, and when you go find this Koopa house, you can see that this Koopa is obsessed with Princess Peach, and he has like all sorts of Princess Peach posters and portraits in their house for some reason. And the game is also quite funny in that it's not afraid to break the fourth wall between
Hmm.
you and the game. And so there's, for example, there's an early fight in the game where if you manage to win this fight against this character turns at you and says, "Oh, you video game characters, you always have a way to win these fights, and it's not fair." And I thought that was quite funny. But yeah, so I've been playing this on the GameCube through means that I will share soon. But I want to recommend this game because it's excellent. And obviously, don't do what I'm doing. Play the Nintendo Switch remaster. It's coming out in a couple of weeks. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door.
Yeah, I've been playing this game too, on and off, and using my Odin 2 and an emulator. So it really is an evergreen game. I just wanted to, like, I guess like you, to I never played this game before, and I wanted to get a taste of it before the game comes out with the remake. And I don't think I'll get to the end of the older game before the remake comes out, but I have been enjoying playing it. And you're right, the writing is excellent and the artwork is really good too. My pick for this week is Fallout, the TV show on Amazon Prime. And you may have heard other people recommend this. It's definitely caused a bit of a stir. I mean, I think to me, it's one of the best Amazon Prime shows that I've seen. There are a lot of, I'm not a big fan of Amazon Prime, to be honest, with when it comes to their TV shows. I have never found much of anything other than maybe the Jack Ryan shows that I really like on
Same.
Amazon Prime. It's just that I get it because I'm an Amazon Prime customer, so I've got it already. But this is super well done, and it's it's obviously based on the video game series Fallout. A lot of it is very much of the vibe, I think, from what I've read, of Fallout 3. What's interesting is I've never played a Fallout game, and I still have enjoyed this show. So I think, first of all, if you wonder whether you can enjoy this show, if you haven't played the games, yes, you can, and I would encourage you to do it. You might miss out on some of the Easter eggs and other little references that are there for the players of those games, but the story is really fantastic anyway, and the story does not follow the narrative of the game. So you can enjoy the show and then maybe go back and play the games, and you haven't like spoiled the story of the game by watching the TV show, which I think is a really nice way to do it. It's just a little different than what Max did with the Last of Us series, which is another video game show that I liked. It's also really nice to see video game related movies and TV shows coming out now that are actually good. There have been so many that are so bad, and we're starting to see some really great ones on streaming services these days. But this story takes place in Los Angeles, the 200 years after the world has been basically destroyed by
Yeah.
atomic bombs. So it's got this retro post-apocalyptic vibe where the story starts in kind of a 50s era setting, which has everything that the kind of things you'd think of from the 50s. But then when you go to the post-apocalyptic world 200 years later, it's kind of futuristic but also 50s-ish, which is this really interesting retro futuristic vibe that I like a lot. And what has always attracted to me to the games, but I just, for whatever reason, never got into them. And so you've got some people who are vault dwellers who are living underground, Turns out they're kind of like the rich to-do people who have bought their way into vaults to try to survive the apocalypse and come out and repopulate the world in the future. And you have the people on the surface who are a combination of like ghouls and they've also got fiends. Fiends are people who are cannibals. That surface world is a very brutal place. And so this story revolves around Lucy, who's one of the occupants of Vault 33, and her vault is taken over by raiders. And the raiders come in, they kidnap her father, and they go to the surface. And so she leaves the vault to find her father and get him back. And so the whole story is kind of a combination of a fish out of water story, because the people in the vaults are very naive and very optimistic, and they have this sunny personalities. And then she goes out into the real world on the surface, and there are people, shooting each other all the time, people eating people, these ghoulish creatures, or people who have had, been poisoned by radiation. And it's just really, really brutal up there. And the thing is, this is a violent show. If you don't like violence, you really may want to keep away from it. But it's not violence. It's violent and gruesome, but it's not in a way that's like gratuitous, I don't think. It just does a nice job of fitting in with the brutality of the world that happens to, that they happen to be occupying. So I think it's well done in that sense as well. And so Lucy goes out into the world and looks for her father. And I don't want to give away what happens up top, but she is pursued by a ghoul who in the before times was a TV cowboy who had been accused of being a communist and therefore was on the outs with Hollywood, and was on the surface when the bombs went off. And she's also joined at times by Maximus, who is he was a squire in the Brotherhood, which are the mechs that you see in Fallout. And then there are, various other characters throughout it, the fiends that I mentioned and a bunch of others. But the story is extremely well told. It's a lot of nice action, sci-fi and brutal, but also very compelling, and the kind of thing that keeps you on the edge of your seat. I've watched 6 of the 8 episodes. They all dropped at once. So all this stuff is out and available now on Amazon Prime. So yeah, I highly recommend watching Fallout. All right, Federico, that's it for this week's episode of Mac Stories Unwind. You can find the two of us over at macstories.net. We are on Mastodon. Just go to vitici.macstories.net and johnvorhees.macstories.net to follow us there. And we're on Threads and Instagram. Federico is at Vitici. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.